Nightmare Moon was biding her time. Once Luna was free, she would reassert control. A few weeks, 2 months at the most, and she would be free. Strange how time moved when you were anticipating something. She had been dormant for decades at a time in her lunar prison. Now, a few weeks, a month or two, seemed like an eternity. Kronos, father of time, certainly had an ironic sense of humor. Looking around, the blue one decided to bury the few apple cores that survived his hunger. No point in messing up this new home. What is that? He wondered as he dug holes with one of his forepaws, then buried the cores at rough distances. Perhaps these will grow into beautiful trees that will feed others like they fed me, he said wistfully with the rhyme on his tongue. Having heard the motion of water earlier, the blue one began walking towards the sound. His paws needed cleaning after digging those holes, and he was still very thirsty. Juicy as those apples were, he needed water. As he walked, he stretched his arms and paws, stopping once to stretch his legs and arms. He used what he had learned at the lab dojo to stretch and find his inner calm. He didn't understand why they taught him martial arts. Actually, he wondered why they insisted on teaching him at all, while most of the other furries had information injected directly into their brain. The scientists insisted on actually teaching him. He was clumsy at first. After all, knowing a thing and doing a thing are two different things. Later, he was given speed courses for everything he needed to know, but the training made applying that knowledge easier. He knew many of those scientists well, especially Father. He would not be able to act against them if they had come after him, and he knew it. If one of the others had come after him, however. Hyosin somehow knew he would never see any of them again. It wasn't the fact that he was on another plane of existence. It was just sure knowledge. As sure as he knew he hated Dobsons and the hunters, the others, he also knew his father and the kind scientists were all probably dead, or they would be shortly. He paused for a moment, realizing that he was growling. His teeth were bare, his brow in a vicious furrow, his paws clenched up into fists, his steps pounding into the soft soil. The thought of those others raised his hackles and enraged him almost instantly. Those humans were cruel and indifferent. They only saw me as a test subject, an experiment, a tool! They never even gave me a name, only a designation. He huffed before stopping to regain his composure. What kind of name is Beta, anyway? He growled angrily. He had to calm down, clear his mind, body, and soul of his anger and fear. Closing his eyes and inhaling deep, he reached down into his center for calm. They were gone. He was safe now. Or are you? A tiny voice asked. He released the breath, forcing it out with the uncertainty and anger. He then drew in another, holding it. He brought his legs together while he inhaled, as well as his arms and elbows close to his body. As he exhaled, he pushed his paws forward, tensing up his fingers, hands, wrist, forearms, shoulders, forcing the evil and pain out of his body. When his arms were straight in front of him, his breath spent, he inhaled and softly returned his arms to his sides, paws up, hovering just below his pectoral muscles. He continued the exercise several more times, pushing his arms out to the sides, up, back, and down. When he finished, his soul was clean and refreshed. His muscles ached slightly less. His mind was clear and relaxed. Tiger breathing always relaxed and centered his thoughts and emotions. That wasn't the accelerated learning. That he learned in the dojo from his master.
What you doing?
Asked a gruff, strong, fearless female voice. Surprised, his ears went at wild angles, his tail straight back, his fur sticking out at all ends, and a look of complete and utter surprise replaced the one of tranquility on Beta's face. Looking wildly at her, his eyes almost bugged out, and he yelped as if slapped, pointing at her, his voice quavering. What? What are you? In response, she falls over, laughing, neighing, pounding the ground with her hooves.
Oh my God! the look on your face! Oh, you should see yourself! I have never seen such a comical sight in all my life!
At which point she rolls onto her back, her hind hooves clopping loudly on the ground as she continues to laugh. Falling back to rote, Beta jumps back, his paws in front of him, his claws bared. The fear of being caught on his face, but still determined not to ever be captured again. His presence for battle emanating from him. Feeling the change in the atmosphere, she stops and slowly gets back to her hooves.
Hey, I'm not going to hurt you or anything,
she begins.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to scare you, but...
She starts, but sniggers a little at the memory of his face before feeling contrite and lowering her head.
I'm sorry I scared you. I'm...
Blue! He finishes loudly, just noticing the sky blue of her fur. You're blue... What? Horse? Pegasus?
Pony!
She said angrily, clapping both her forehooves on the ground.
I'm a Pegasus pony,
she said indignantly.
I'm the fastest Pegasus pony in Ponyville, and one of the fastest in all of Equestria,
she added proudly, maybe a little boastfully.
And besides, who are you to comment on fur color? You're bluer than berry jam,
she countered, angry at being called a horse.
Just what the hell kind of freak are you? You have rabbit ears, a foxtail, and... how do you stand on two legs?
She asked, slowly running out of steam. Realized she may have crossed the line, calling him a freak. Fluttershy did say he seemed a little bothered. He started, but was unable to finish. Her comment stung him deep. He wasn't ready to deal with this existence yet, and here this stranger just threw the entirety of it in his face. His ears falling behind his head, his shoulders drooping, his tail now flat, misery crossing his face. He was a genetic anomaly. Even among the others among the lab, he was different. He didn't accept programming well. He didn't stay in his tank well. He was called a mistake, a fluke, a random anomaly that should have been put down long time ago. He was the only one of his kind that he knew of. Only the prototypes were being made. They were supposed to be the first of an army, but only 5 were made. Alpha the Doctor, Beta the Assassin, Gamma the Scout and Sniper, Delta and Omega. In a twist, the burly leader. Each one was different. Alpha was a purple vixen, Gamma was a weasel. Delta was a German shepherd and leader until Omega was finished. And Omega was, well, big. He was still in his tank when Beta had to leave. Seeing the misery clearly crossing his face, the blue Pegasus pony walked closer, nudging his downturned maw with her own.
Hey, look, I'm really sorry. Honest. I didn't mean to.
She wasn't sure exactly what she had done to hurt him, but it had hurt him badly. Somewhere in the back of Beta's mind, he'd realized her bravery, or her inability to hurt someone who was in pain on purpose. By any rational metric, she was crazy for coming so close to a stranger. He felt she deserved to know this really wasn't her fault. He started weakly, the misery so plain on his face even his whiskers were drooping. Tears only just being held back by bravado. Back at the lab, they said I was an anomaly, a mistake. My consciousness, everything about me was wrong. She didn't understand what he was saying. I can't learn from rapid programming, or injections, or from direct neural contact. I think independently. The reality of this situation, everything that had been sent to him before was hitting him like a torrential rain filled with bricks. As if this were his magnum opus, he looked miserably at her, seeing her for the first time since entering his near-fugue state, and cried, tears streaming from his large, lapine eyes. I'm a mistake! I'm a freak! She stepped back, shaking her head. No, she whispered at first, not knowing, unsure what set him off, and feeling horrible for it. No, you are... She started to yell at him, trying to stop this line of thought, but he cut her off. I'm an accident, he said, his self-hatred dripping like venom from the words. Then he collapsed in a heap on the ground before the beautiful blue pony before him, weeping for his lost comrades, his lost family, his dead father, for he had no doubt that his father was gone after he let him escape. Worse yet, he knew his father's death was his own fault. If father had let him terminate him, he would probably still be alive. Lifting his head to the heavens, he roared in utter grief, misery, and self-hatred. I should be dead! Bellowing the words to the heavens, hoping a god would hear him. And she did. But what father would willingly let his son die? Said a very tiny, very quiet voice in the back of his mind. Luna heard him, and her heart almost broke in two. Her compassion returning to her soul as the lost waters returned to the savannah. Luna pushed Nightmare Moon away from her mind as she looked upon Beta as a lost child finally home, realizing he did belong here in Equestria. She had to return now. She had to look after this new son of hers. Family is not just the people you are born to or genetically connected to. Family are the people who look after you.